get to taste the best life has to offer while all I do is choke on its leftovers. Answer me this. Why do all of you get the pizza while I get the crust?
Cheer up, Apocalymon. With Pizza Hut's all-new stuffed crust pizza, you'll want those crusts all to yourself. What do you think of that?
Wait a minute, what am I laughing at? I'm supposed to be depressed.
Hey everybody, Tyler the Fro here, and as you can tell, I've been brewing. BT15 is just released in Japan, and there are already Apocalymon decks taking the top tables. So far from the data that I've seen on Digimon Meta, Apocalymon decks tend to be more toolboxes where you play your Apocalymon and then every turn you just find silver bullets turn after turn to churn out advantages over the course of the game. I like these ideas, but I feel like we could do better. Nay, we must do better. We will do better. Because Apocalymon is so open-ended as a card, there are multiple shells that it can fit in. From what I've been testing, there are two different categories. One where you sit back, protect Apocalymon, and mill your opponent out, and the other where you're stacking the abilities underneath Apocalymon and then aggroing out your opponent. As such, I figured out a couple different shells that I want to test out as soon as the card's legal. First and foremost, for the control shells. Because Apocalymon can trigger any on plays that you tuck every turn, there are a number of level 6s in this game that were previously garbage because they were only an on-play effect, and paying 12 memory just wasn't worth it. But as Royal Knights has demonstrated, if you're able to get those on-play effects for a discount, they're considerably stronger. As such, the first version that I brewed up was Royal Knights. Between Craniumon and Alphamon, there are multiple ways of protecting Apocalymon turn after turn after turn, and by triggering Alphamon's on play, you're able to tuck another Royal Knight underneath him as well, which speeds up the rate at which you're able to mill your opponent. Theoretically, if you play Apocalymon and keep the turn, you're able to tuck an Alphamon, tuck another Royal Knight, and mill 10 cards on the first turn you have him out. In addition, Alphamon would also keep your opponent from attacking with anything play cost 10 or higher. If you're really worried about your opponent interacting with Apocalymon, you can tuck Craniumon underneath and protect him for the turn. And then, of course, if you want to interact with the opponent and get rid of some of their guys, such as in the mirror match, you can also just play Gallantmon, either through Apocalmon's effect or just hard playing him because you're going to be milling each other and he's going to be able to play for free. What makes this particular shell so powerful is it doesn't really need much to set up. 2 copies of Dynasmon and a couple looting effects, and you can stack your trash pretty efficiently. Next up in the Turbo Mill category, we've got the Raidenmon shell. Now this is a really cute one because with Raidenmon's on-play effect, you can tuck multiple level 6s underneath the Apocalymon in the same turn. With Raidenmon's on-play effect, you're able to tuck a Fujin, Raijin, and Suijinmon underneath him at the same time. So theoretically you can get 7 level 6s underneath Apocalymon in one turn, meaning you can deck your opponent for 14 cards every turn. And that's before we even get into any inheritable effects. This one is a little bit more of a build-up, but at the same time, it does have a faster clock once it gets going. Finally, for the control shells, I've got the Belphamon version of this deck. This kind of takes the best of the previous 2 builds in that Belphamon's sleep mode's on-play effect will tuck a rage mode underneath and then prevent a Apocalymon from being affected by anything. If you're able to keep doing that over and over and over again, not only are you steadily increasing the speed at which you're able to mill your opponent, it also makes it harder for your opponent to interact with the Apocalymon at all. While you do trade off the effectiveness of sleep mode's other mode of canceling attacks, you also will have a typically 15k blocker, which a lot of decks aren't going to be really swinging through. From there, the rest of the deck is just draw discard like a typical Belphamon deck, so you do also have the option to just play a Belphamon deck. Next up, we've got the aggro shells of Apocalymon that I think are pretty spicy. First and foremost, and a lot of people forget that this is actually an on-play effect, we have Beelstarmon. Beelstarmon is already a deck that wants to trash a lot of 7-cost options, so it already has a lot of draw discard effects. So in addition to just playing your typical Beelstar deck, you have the option to also tuck a Beelstarmon underneath Apocalymon, and then get to return a 7-cost option to your hand and then play one for free. In this kind of shell, you would just sit back on a purple egg, just keep that in raising, and it just turns on all of your 7-cost options. This ends up giving the Apocalymon deck a pretty versatile removal package, as well as versatility in the Nailbone package, because it gives the ability to rush down with a Ginkaku promotes in the endgame. Or you can always just Nailbone to bring back a Scatter Mode and a Gabumon for even more recursion. Finally, and this I think might be my magnum opus for Apocalymon, this is the Machinedramon shell. Both EX1 Machinedramon and Chaos Dramon have on-plays that tuck more sources underneath your Digimon. It already has several ways of discarding cards, such as Analog Man, Haguramon, or even Gardramon's inheritable. What we do here is, with Machinedramon EX1, we get to tuck up to 5 level 5 cyborgs from our hand or trash with its on-play effect. Say we're at 3 memory. We play a Apocalymon with 3 Dark Masters under him. You play him for 3. You're still at 0. You tuck Machinedramon underneath him, and then you put 5 cyborg underneath him. Machinedramon gains memory for every cyborg you tuck under him. You could potentially gain 5 memory from this on-play effect. So you went from 3 to 0 to 5. And that's not even factoring in any of the inheritables that the level 5s give you. Between all of the new security attack +1 effects, the new piercing effects, the new reboot blocker effects, there's so many ways to make a Apocalymon into a one-shot attacker. Or say you're facing the mirror match, you can tuck Chaos Dramon, tuck 3 sources, and then de-digivolve your opponent's Apocalymon. And that is how you usually win those mirrors, is by breaking the Apocalymon. While you lose a lot of the protections that a typical Machinedramon deck would have, you can also just play this as a regular Machinedramon deck. You run the 4 Analog Mans for the looting effect. You run Attack of the Heavy Mobile Digimon as a finisher, but you can also just play a Machinedramon like normal. You can beat them down with regular Machinedramon, and then just as they're able to stabilize, oh guess what, I was a Apocalymon all along. Tuck a Machinedramon, and then I gain 5 memory, and then we just keep punching you. I'm pretty sure once BT15 drops, this is the shell that I'm going to be trying out because it's the most explosive, and it has just the right amount of defensive and offensive inheritables that it turns a Apocalymon into a slow lumbering threat into an immediate decimator. While Apocalymon is slated to be the heavy hitter of that format, there's still plenty of time in English for us to prepare. Like, it drops in February. It's currently October, so we've got time to brew, we've got time to brainstorm. If you've got any other ideas, I would love to hear them, because just the mere concept of this card has me giddy. So this has been Tyler the Fro. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that YouTube stuff, and you have yourselves a great day.